What if I told you there's a studio that Disney tried to bankrupt? Hollywood executives hate, and yet they just made one of the most profitable independent films in history. And what if I told you that regular people like you and me can actually own a piece of the company for less than the cost of a dinner date? Well, I just put my money where my mouth is. I invested $500 in Angel Studios, and today I'm going to tell you exactly why this might be the most interesting investment opportunity you've never heard of. This is the story of four Mormon brothers who went from nearly losing everything to completely rewriting the rules of Hollywood. And trust me, by the end of this episode, you'll understand why 47,520 people just handed them $55 million and why traditional studios are probably losing sleep over it. The origin story when Disney declares war. Let me take you back to 2014. Four brothers, Neil, Daniel, Jeffrey, and Jordan Harmon, are sitting around watching movies with their kids. As any parent knows, you're about 15 minutes into what you thought was a family film when suddenly there's language, violence, or content that makes you scramble for the remote. So these guys did what any frustrated parent with too much time and a programming background would do. They created VidAngel. The concept was brilliant in its simplicity. Buy DVDs, clean them up by filtering out objectionable content, and let families stream the edited versions. But here's where it gets interesting. The major studios, Disney, Warner Brothers, 20th Century Fox, and Lucasfilm, weren't exactly thrilled about this. In 2016, they filed a massive lawsuit claiming VidAngel was violating copyright by decrypting DVDs and streaming unlicensed content. Now, the Harmon brothers thought they were protected by something called the Family Movie Act. Sounds reasonable, right? Well, they were wrong. The courts didn't see it that way. In December 2016, a federal judge essentially shut down VidAngel's entire business model with a preliminary injunction. Imagine being weeks away from bankruptcy because you tried to make movies more family-friendly. The irony is almost painful. But here's what makes this story fascinating. Most entrepreneurs would have thrown in the towel. The Harmons, they did something completely different. While fighting a legal battle that would eventually cost them $62.4 million in damages, later settled for $9.9 million, they had a crazy idea. The pivot that changed everything. What if, instead of cleaning up Hollywood's content, they just made their own? And here's the genius part. What if they let their audience decide what to make and help pay for it? This is where Angel Studios was born from the ashes of VidAngel. They called their investors angels, hence the name, and they built something that had never been done before. A fully crowdfunded movie studio. Think about this for a second. Traditional Hollywood works like this. A handful of executives in boardrooms decide which movies get made based on their gut feelings, industry connections, and what they think will sell. Their success rate? A pathetic 20%. That means 8 out of 10 Hollywood projects lose money. The Harmons flipped this completely upside down. They created the Angel Guild, now 1.5 million paying members worldwide, who vote on what content gets made. It's like democracy for entertainment, and the results speak for themselves. The Chosen, proving the model works. Their first major test case was a little show called The Chosen, a multi-season series about the life of Jesus. Now, before you roll your eyes thinking this is just religious content, let me hit you with some numbers that should make any investor pay attention. The Chosen raised over $13 million in crowdfunding, making it the largest crowdfunded TV series in history at the time. But that's not the impressive part. The impressive part is that it's been viewed over 300 million times worldwide. That's a 100% Rotten Tomatoes audience score. That's better than the Avengers movies, by the way, and generated over $281 million in revenue for Angel Studios. Let me repeat that. A show about Jesus, crowdfunded by regular people, outperformed billion-dollar studio productions in audience satisfaction and profitability. Sound of Freedom, the $250 million proof point. But if The Chosen proved the model worked for TV, Sound of Freedom proved it could work for theatrical releases too. And this is where Angel Studios went from interesting to absolutely revolutionary. Sound of Freedom, starring Jim Caviezel, cost $14.5 million to make. Not exactly a Marvel budget. Angel Studios crowdfunded $5 million just for marketing and distribution from nearly 7,000 investors. The result? $250 million worldwide box office. That's a 1,700% return on investment. Even if you account for all distribution costs, this film was profitable beyond anyone's wildest dreams. It outperformed Indiana Jones and Mission Impossible movies that summer. A little independent film about child trafficking beat billion-dollar franchises. And here's the kicker. Those 7,000 investors who crowdfunded the marketing, Angel Studios paid them back their original investment plus 20% profit in just 59 days. That's a 120% return in 2 months. Show me a traditional Hollywood investment that delivers those kinds of returns to regular people. The secret sauce, why this model actually works. So what makes Angel Studios different from every other production company trying to disrupt Hollywood? 3 things. First, they've eliminated the guesswork. Instead of studio executives guessing what audiences want, they literally ask them. The Angel Guild votes on projects before they're made. It's market research and focus groups built into the funding model. Second, they've created true believers, not just viewers. When someone invests $100 in a project, they become emotionally invested in its success. They tell their friends, share it on social media, and buy tickets. It's grassroots marketing at its finest. And third, they've democratized the entire process. You don't need to know someone in Hollywood or have millions of dollars to be part of the film industry. You can invest $50 and own a piece of the next big movie. The numbers don't lie. Let me throw some statistics at you that should make traditional studios nervous. Angel Studios has 1.5 million paying guild members across 180 countries. They've produced 36 films and 21 TV series. Their content has generated over $400 million at the box office. In the first half of 2025 alone, Guild revenue hit $81 million. And they claim the highest per-release domestic box office average of any independent studio from 2023 to 2025. But here's what really caught my attention. They've inverted Hollywood's 80% failure rate. While traditional studios lose money on 8 out of 10 projects, Angel's community-driven approach means they're profitable on the vast majority of their releases. Why I invested $500. So why did I decide to put my money into Angel Studios? Several reasons. First, the business model makes sense. They're not gambling on what people might want. They're giving people exactly what they've already said they want to see. Second, the leadership team has been battle-tested. These guys survived a lawsuit that would have destroyed most companies, rebuilt from bankruptcy, and created something entirely new. This takes serious resilience and vision. Third, the market opportunity is massive. There are millions of families who feel underserved by current entertainment options. Angel Studios has found a way to serve that market profitably. And fourth, the timing is perfect. As traditional Hollywood continues to struggle with declining box office numbers and streaming wars, Angel Studios is growing. They just went public on the NYSE under ticker symbol ANGX with a $1.6 billion valuation. The investment opportunity, $55 million raised. Here's what happened that made me pull the trigger. Angel Studios recently completed a massive crowdfunding campaign, raising $55 million from 47,520 individual investors. That's an average of about $1,150 per person. Regular folks, not institutional investors. They initially set the goal of $10 million and crushed it by 550%. When a company exceeds their funding goal by that margin, it tells you something about market demand. I invested through their website at fansinvest.angel.com. For $500, I got about 11 shares at roughly $44 per share. That might sound expensive, but consider this. Back in 2016, when they were fighting the Disney lawsuit, shares were $3. Today, they're trading at $44. That's nearly a 1,500% increase in less than a decade. What they plan to do with the money. Angel Studios plans to use the $55 million for 4 main things. 1. Expanding the Angel streaming app, building better technology and a new user experience. 2. Growing the Angel Guild, marketing to reach new audiences worldwide. 3. Funding more original content. They've announced over $100 million in new projects. And 4. Taking creative control away from Hollywood. Their words, not mine. They also just closed a $100 million credit facility with Trinity Capital to further expand their operations. The risks, let's be honest. Now, I'm not going to sugarcoat this. Every investment has risks, and Angel Studios is no exception. First, it's still a relatively small company competing against massive entertainment conglomerates with deep pockets and established distribution networks. Second, they're not profitable yet. Despite massive revenue growth, they reported a $53.3 million net loss in the first half of 2025, largely due to marketing expenses to grow the guild. Third, the entertainment industry is notoriously unpredictable. Even with their improved success rate, not every project will be a hit. Fourth, this is a relatively illiquid investment. While they've gone public, the stock could be volatile, and this isn't money I need back anytime soon. And fifth, there's the controversy factor. Some of their content, particularly Sound of Freedom, has been politically polarizing for whatever reason. That could limit their mainstream appeal. What happens if they fail? If Angel Studios fails, I lose my $500. That's the reality of any investment in a growth company. But I sized this investment appropriately. It's money I can afford to lose without affecting my lifestyle. Christmas gifts will be a little bit more Spartan though. However, I'd argue the chances of total failure are relatively low. They've already proven their model works, they have a growing and engaged customer base, and they're in a market with significant unmet demand. What happens if they succeed? If Angel Studios succeeds in disrupting Hollywood's traditional model, the upside potential could be substantial. Consider this. Netflix has a market cap of about $240 billion. Disney is around $200 billion. If Angel Studios captures even a small fraction of that market by serving underserved audiences, my $500 investment could grow significantly to $501. But anyway, more realistically, if they continue to grow at their current pace and maintain their unique position in the market, I could see this being a 5 to 10x return over the next decade. That would turn my $500 into $2,500 or maybe even $5,000. But honestly, the potential financial return isn't the only reason I invested. Why this matters beyond money. This investment represents something bigger than just potential profit. It's a bet on a fundamentally different way of creating entertainment, one where audiences have actual power instead of just consuming whatever executives decide to make. Think about it. When was the last time you felt like Hollywood was making content specifically for you and your values? For millions of families, the answer is never. Angel Studios is changing that. They're proving that you don't need to be a billionaire media mogul to influence what gets made. You just need to be willing to put your money where your mouth is and support the content you actually want to see. The competitive landscape. Traditional studios are starting to take notice. The success of Sound of Freedom prompted at least one major Hollywood studio to commission a survey studying Angel's approach. When your competitors are studying your business model, you know you're doing something right. But here's what makes Angel Studios particularly defensible. They're not just making content, they're building a community. Those 1.5 million guild members aren't just customers, they're stakeholders in the success of every project. Try to replicate that level of engagement with traditional marketing budgets. It's going to be nearly impossible. Recent developments going public. Just this month, Angel Studios completed their SPAC merger and began trading on the New York Stock Exchange under the ticker ANGX. CEO Neil Harmon and his team literally rang the closing bell to celebrate their first day of public trading. This is significant because it provides liquidity for early investors and validates their business model in the eyes of institutional investors. It also gives them access to additional capital to fuel growth. The combined company is valued at approximately $1.6 billion in enterprise value, which seems reasonable given their growth trajectory and unique market position. My personal experience. I've been watching Angel Studios for about a year, initially drawn in by the Sound of Freedom success story. As someone who's always been interested in alternative investment opportunities, their crowdfunding model immediately caught my attention. What convinced me to actually invest was seeing their consistent execution. They didn't just have one hit, they built a repeatable system for identifying and producing content that audiences actually want. The investment process was very straightforward. I went to fansinvest.angel.com, reviewed their SEC filings, yes, you actually need to read the risk factors, and made my investment through their Regulation A+ offering. Will it work out? Time will tell, but I'd rather be early to a potentially disruptive business model than late to a traditional investment. The broader implications. Angel Studios represents something larger happening in media and entertainment. Audiences are tired of being passive consumers. They want to be participants in the content creation process. We've seen this in other industries, crowdfunding platforms like Kickstarter for products, Patreon for creators, and even crypto projects that give token holders governance rights. Angel Studios is applying the same principle to Hollywood, and the results suggest there's significant pent-up demand for this approach. Looking forward. Angel Studios has announced an ambitious content pipeline, including several high-profile projects in development. They're also expanding internationally, partnering with distributors in over 20 countries, and if they can maintain their quality standards while scaling globally, they could become a significant force in entertainment. That's a big if, but their track record so far gives me confidence in their ability to execute. The bottom line. Look, I'm not a financial advisor, and this is definitely not investment advice. But I will say this, Angel Studios represents one of the most interesting disruptions of any traditional industry I've seen in years. They've taken an industry known for waste, inefficiency, and discontent from audiences, and they've built a model that's more efficient, more democratic, and more profitable. My $500 investment is a bet that this model will continue to grow and potentially reshape how entertainment gets made and distributed. Is it risky? Absolutely. Could I lose my entire investment? Absolutely. But could it be the start of something much bigger? Maybe. Final thoughts. The entertainment industry has been controlled by a small group of gatekeepers for decades. Angel Studios is proving that there's another way, one where audiences have real power and regular people can participate in the upside. Whether you invest or not, I think it's worth paying attention to what they're doing. They're not just making movies and TV shows, they're pioneering a new way of thinking about media, audiences, and ownership. And in a world where everything feels increasingly centralized and controlled by massive corporations, that feels pretty revolutionary to me. So, there you have it, why I invested $500 in Angel Studios and why I think they might just change Hollywood forever. So, what do you think? Are you ready to become an angel too?